Welcome. The channel's book club prize for literature is still ongoing. It is an essay competition for teenagers in all Nigerian secondary schools. The first prize is a sponsored trip to this year's edition of the Frankfurt Book Fair in Frankfurt, Germany. The second and third prizes are also exciting. The closing day for entries is 31st of August 2013, which is about 4 days away. So if you are keen, 4 days is still enough time to write an essay to review Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. Please get all the details you need on www.channelstv.com/home/guidelines. You can also call 0803-332-0974 or 081-384-57084 to get information. The competition is supported by our friends Latana Books, Lufthansa German Airline, and Goethe Institute Nigeria. Please join us after this break.
What I've learned from books is that books transport you. They take you to a different place. When you read, you become someone else. You get lost in the character and in the pages of the books. I've had so many careers and been to so many countries that I've never gone to through the pages of a book. Recently, with the new proliferation of African writers, I've just been so overjoyed to read all these books. One of my favorite books was Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Adichie. And when I read that book, it was like she was writing about my life. It was great to see another little girl who was Igbo and had trips to Enugu and, ate pamal soup and went to Catholic church. And it was just amazing to find someone else within the pages of the books that was so much like me. So what am I saying? Read a book. It can't hurt. It can change your life. Your vocabulary will expand. I've aced SAT tests and GREs just because of reading. I've never studied for the English section of a book. So read a book and don't forget to watch the channel's book club.
Channels Television presents the Channels Book Club Prize for Literature, where one student in Nigeria stands a chance of winning the top prize of a sponsored trip to the 2013 Frankfurt Book Fair in Frankfurt, Germany. 50,000 naira worth of books and exciting consolation prizes for the runners-up. How to participate? Candidates should read and write not more than 1,500 words on Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. The submitted essay must have a title, the candidate's full name, contact number, school, principal's name and contact. Essays should be sent to the Channels Book Club at channelstv.com. For further information, visit www.channelstv.com or call Tunde on 080-333-20974 or Orelua on 0813-845-7084. Entry closes August the 31st, 2013. The Channels Book Club Prize for Literature, supported by Lufthansa German Airline, Latana Books, and Goethe Institute.
If you ever doubt that Nigeria has a potentially bright future, then it's probably because you have not met absolutely brilliant young Nigerians like the two gentlemen we are featuring in today's episode. Tunde Leye and Okechukwu Ofili are two of the brightest stars in contemporary Nigeria. Tunde is a banker, a prolific fiction writer, and a blogger. Okechukwu is the engineer who founded the revolutionary Okada Books, which is helping thousands of readers to easily access Nigerian books on their mobile devices. These gentlemen joined us to share their thoughts on their works and happenings in the publishing industry in Nigeria. The chat took place at the popular Pataba bookshop at ShopRite, Surulere. While there, we also bumped into some smart little kids who were window shopping at the bookshop as part of their summer holiday activities. Of course, we didn't miss the opportunity to get them to talk to us. Enjoy yourself. So, welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Tunde, you have a blog that is focused on fiction writing.
Absolutely correct.
How well is that blog doing? How are people reacting to your writings?
Like I said, the first thing that the blog did for me was to junk the notion that people don't read. Before I started blogging, I had a book out. I published a book, and I thought people were not reading. But the moment I put it out there on the blog, people started reading. The feedback was massive. There were BlackBerry groups, there were Facebook groups centered around that story. The first story I put up, Finding Hubby, and within 6 months, we were at 500,000 views. Within a year, we were at almost 1 million views. So people read. That's the first thing that the blog did for me. Apart from that, it's helped with the second book, selling the second book, and building a profile as a writer. So those are the things that a fiction blog can do for a writer. Put your work out there, let people know you as a brand, and then help you in driving sales or whatever you publish.
So it seems to me like there's a kind of quiet revolution going on in Nigeria, literary revolution. People say people don't read, Nigerians don't read. But when you have 1 million hits on a website that is about fiction writing, sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with his notion, and when we talked about Okada books, I always say that Okada book is run on the belief that Nigerians read. I believe that it is the biggest lie that we tell ourselves that Nigerians don't, because we read. The problem has been that reading has been inaccessible. You look at our classics like Chinua Achebe. 2-3 years ago, I was looking for Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. I couldn't find it in any Nigerian bookstore. Top Nigerian bookstores I couldn't find it on the road, nowhere. It was when I went to the Houston International Airport, several thousand miles away from Nigeria, that's where I found it. So the problem has been and always is that we have a poor distribution system. Beyond Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, those 3 centers, you're hard pressed to find solid bookstores and libraries. So we have a reading problem in the sense that books aren't available, not that the individual Nigerian does not want to read. So Nigerians do read.
Oh, okay, now talking along that line now you've created Okada Books, which is very, very creative with solving a lot of problems. Can you tell us a bit more about what led to that idea and how it's doing now?
It's doing great. It's not a Facebook where we're getting the millions yet. It's going to take some time. But the idea came out of frustration, like most ideas. I put my books in several stores. Not this, Pataba has been very good to me, but several bookstores, and they wouldn't pay me. They would sell the book. There was a time bookstores were owing me over 1 million naira. I had to put it on my blog, and I had to get a social media gathering of people to put pressure on them before they were able to pay me. And then as a self-published author, when you want to distribute your books beyond, like I talked about, those 3 centers, it's very difficult. So I kept on saying, how can we fix this problem? And then I met this lady who taught herself how to sew with her BlackBerry phone. She would just download all these PDFs and she would be reading. And I'm like, wow, Nigerians do read. We can do many things with phones. So I was like, why don't we just take books and put it in mobile phones? And then the other thing is that we have the Amazon Kindles out, Amazons and the Smashwords, but the problem is that they require credit cards. So I said, what about we bypass the credit cards and let Nigerians pay with phone credit? Everybody has phone credits in their phones. So that's really what the Bird Child has been, and we've launched in 2 months, and we've had 7,500 downloads of our books, and it's strictly on an Android system. We haven't even gone to BlackBerry, we haven't gone to Windows or Apple iOS. Imagine what happens when we get there.
Wow, so basically all I need to do is get my Android, download, go to your site, download the book and
for free.
I'm finding this very interesting. So there's a mass of Nigerians out there, who are on the social media, who are a bit techie, maybe not extensively, a bit techie, so they can exploit these platforms to do more reading. Is that happening? How well is that happening?
I mean, for example, Tunde is one of the people that has been gracious enough to support Mokala Books. I found out about him about 2 years ago. I don't read fiction a lot, but I was like, wow. He had like 140, 150 comments. It was like a Linda Ikeji. And then I met him, and he graciously put two of his books, Burden of Proof. What is the other one? Broken Mirrors on the platform. And these are great writers. We're not talking about just the reading. We have great writers that want to write, but they don't have the publishing companies aren't looking for them. The publishing companies are looking for Nigerians that write like Chinua Achebe.
Exactly.
They want that writer that is writing about someone based in the village with the oracle, and they don't give chance to other genres like Tunde Leye's genre. So if they did, I mean, the writing industry would just blow.
To come in there, we were having a conversation before we came on air, and I was talking about the contrast between Juju and Fuji, and how what is happening in writing is very similar to that. For a long time ago, Juju was the music that people listened to in the Southwest, and you had a lot of Juju musicians, Sonny, Obe, General Prince, and all of those people, and it was a dominant thing. Now, there was a shift in what people wanted to listen to, and on the ground, the Fuji guy started coming up in the motor parks, in the car parks, in places where people that listen to Juju would not go to, and they were not countenanced, you see. And what happened was that after a while, Fuji became dominant because that was the growing demographic that wasn't attended to by Juju. There was no new Juju. After Sashino Peters, there was no new Juju that came up to attend to the new demographic. And what happened is Fuji took over, and today the Fuji guys are the biggest. If you took away King Sunny Ade from Juju, there's really nobody doing such fantastic stuff in Juju again. Fuji, that's what's happening in the regular mainstream publishing. There's a focus on a kind of writing. You see, but there's a growing demographic that wants a different kind of writing. And where that kind of writing is being given to them is on the blogs. That's where they go to. That's where they read those things. And that's why those people are saying people are not reading, but they are reading somewhere else. And what would happen eventually is if the mainstream publishing, which is not so big in itself anyway, but if it doesn't go to the blogs to look for writers to package, process, and bring to people, what will happen is exactly what happened to Juju. You would have some 1, 2 very big writers like KSA is in Juju, maybe a Chimamanda, maybe some other very big person dominating that space, but there will be revolution, something that will happen where most regular people will start buying what the bloggers are doing. That's what's happening right now. It's in the early stages, but it's happening already.
You seem to have the notion that there's a problem with the way the publishing industry is attacking this reading culture issue. I read that in your article.
Yes, the
Eating that Nigerian publishing frog.
Yeah.
I think that's the title of the article. Yeah. Now, somebody might wonder what exactly is the problem? Why are they thinking along that line? Why are they not being more creative in the way they pick the kind of books they publish, in the way they sell the books, in the way they promote the books, in ways that can encourage the younger generation to read more? What exactly is the problem?
This is what is happening. There's a way the publishing industry is structured to discover new stuff. You write a manuscript, you send it into the publishing house, it goes through a review process, and then they get back to you
after 2 years,
after a long time, and all of that. Now, that has not taken into cognizance the new realities, and that is the truth. And that has not taken into cognizance the fact that we don't have the kind of structure that people publishing abroad have, where you have an agent, publishing agents that will work with you very, very closely to get your book published. You don't have it here. The author would write. The author has to try. Unfortunately, people that do art are a certain way. There are two things the person needs. He needs expression. As somebody that creates any artistic thing, publishing, music, whatever, writing music, whatever. The person also, there's a streak of, I don't want to use the word impatience, but you want your art out there for people to read and appreciate. Now, when that doesn't happen, people begin to explore. That's why people like Ophilie, people like myself would go through the self-publishing route, you see. Before I self-published, I had sent my book out, my manuscript out to publishers for 4 years.
4 years?
4 years. I sent it out for 4 years and nothing happened. And then I published the first one. I made some mistakes, I learned. I went on to the blogosphere. I pushed out some stuff. By the time I published the second one, Golden Sands, it was like that. Now it will be a bit difficult to convince me to send in my manuscript to a pub, and that's what's happening. The music industry understood this, so they started organizing stuff where people bring the talent to them, raw talent, the X Factors. It was an understanding of what's happening. That's not happening in publishing. Publishing is still waiting for writers to send in those manuscripts.
In Nigeria,
exactly.
Publishing in Nigeria.
You need to go out, go to the blogs, go to where people are writing, and pick them up. That's what needs to happen.
And for me, I think it's fear and inflexibility. There's this paranoia about Nigeria that there are pirates all around the place. They're willing to steal your books, and so what they do is they hide. So that's why you don't see anything.
That's true.
And what happened in the music industry is that they had piracy issues. So what Two-Face did was he released an album that cost 200, 500 naira to make piracy non-profitable. Now we have books, great books that are being sold for 2,500, 5,000. It's not possible. You know, people are going to pirate and get the cheaper versions of the work. But if the Nigerian publishing industry can find a way to produce these things at cheaper prices, they will fight the pirates and not run away. Because what they are doing is they are running away. The other thing is the inflexibility. Again, I go back to the music industry. If you look at what happens in the US now, that people just go on YouTube, they post, they create a big fan base, so big that the music industry can't ignore them, and they give them record deals, and already they're coming in with fans. So what the publishing industry should do, like Tunde has said, is to go out there to see the blogs. I mean, Tunde is getting as much comments and hits as Linda Ikeji is getting.
Oh.
I mean, that is a message. That is something that you should jump on, but they are not doing it. So if they're able to tackle all this, I'm sure they will get there. And the other thing is that we need a publishing organization. We don't have one in Nigeria. Everybody is just doing it. Farafina, Cassava Republic, ALS in Abuja, the Nigerian, all of them need to come together and form a structure so they can address this publishing issue face.
So to back what you said up, I know a writer, I don't want to mention her name, who she submitted a manuscript to one of the big publishing firms in Nigeria, and she was chasing them for 7 years. 7 years.
She has
now,
patience.
after the book got published, she's had struggles with getting the publishers to do what it takes to get the book to sell and all that. So that problem is a big one. It's really a big one. Now, let me ask you about Okada Books. We are in a bookshop now. Is it a threat to sales of physical books as we know them and as we love to read them?
To me, I don't see it as a threat. What I see as a bigger threat is illiteracy in Nigeria. What I see as a bigger threat is having our children growing up and reading from an American perspective. I mean, when I grew up, I read Enid Blyton. I read Famous Five. I read Secret Seven. I believe that was what the world should be.
World, yeah.
I didn't read our classics. I mean, I stumbled upon Chinua Achebe, but I was saturated with the Famous Fives and Secret Seven. And I started realizing that the only way we can bring this out is if we get more people writing it. And when you start looking at this, you start realizing that a lot of our writers aren't living in Nigeria. A lot of them, the ones that are really doing well, they are living in. So we need to find a way to make the writers that are here profitable. And I think it would take, again, a flexibility of the publishing industry to understand the need for Nigerians to tell a Nigerian story from a Nigerian perspective.
I have an idea of what it takes and how much it costs to produce a book in Nigeria. It's a lot cheaper printing overseas than printing in Nigeria because locally they have power challenges, they have all sorts of costs that make production costs just shoot off the roof. Okay. So is the problem just the publishing industry, or
do we have a culture problem here?
Let me clarify something. Let me clarify something so that it's clear. Publishing is not printing. I can be a Nigerian publisher and print all my books in China. It's not the same thing. Publishing is about, I discover a raw material, somebody's manuscript, and I do whatever it takes to process and package that manuscript into a product that people want and sell it to them. So the publishing, whatever happens in that process, it doesn't matter where it happens. I can be a Nigerian publisher and print in Hong Kong, as long as what I am doing is I'm taking a Nigerian story, a Nigerian written story. It goes through proper editing. It goes through, all the works. You get a good book out, and we sell it. And selling is about getting it to people. That's where things like what Ophelia is doing, distribution and all of that. In that article I wrote, I talked about the model that Nigerian musicians eventually adopted, apart from dropping the price. Now, to solve problems when they are at this level, you don't look for the neatest of solutions. You look for solutions that work, and then you move towards the neat solution after. Do you understand? So what the musicians did was the guys that were pirating were quote and unquote the Alaba boys. So what they did was to engage those Alaba boys and use the distribution networks that those guys already had. That's why today an album is released and you see it on the road tomorrow, because there's a distribution network that those guys already had to distribute the pirated works. Basically, you just leverage them to legitimize and distribute the music, and the musicians then began to look, apart from the money they would get from CD sales, they began to look at other streams of income that they could generate from their music. So they started looking at endorsements, they started looking at shows, they started looking at tours, and those doors began to open. That's what we need to do in publishing.
Which book do you wish you had written? Already published. You wish you were the one who wrote it.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
I've seen the movie. I've not read the book.
Look, I read the book at 9. I read the 3 books at 9. So.
Wow. At 9?
Yes.
Age 9.
And this guy is
Age 9, Lord of the Rings.
he likes
The
reading.
3 books. It's a trilogy, and I think it was the first thing that caught me and made me interested in writing. Those books are fantastic. I have a book coming out in that line. It's called Guardians of the Seals. It's something in that line. I hope it becomes like that.
Amen. Go do Nollywood movie for it.
Yes.
How about you?
For me, I will skip the question a little bit because I'm not an avid reader like that. But the book, in a way, because I still categorize it as a book, will be Suffering and Smiling by Fela. Yeah, but I mean, it's not a book, it's a song. But for me, when I write, it's all about expression. And I see a lot of people that are trying to write and they skirt around the questions. And I really like Fela because he faced it head on. And when I listened to that song 10 years ago and I listen to it now, it's still applicable in Nigeria. And for somebody to be able to understand that way back then and put it out in art in whichever way he chose to do it, that was phenomenal. And that's why I'm a Fela fanatic, and I love that song.
Okay, thank you guys for joining us here today.
Thank you for having us.
Our books of the week are Tunde Leye's Burden of Proof, which you can download from Okada Books, and Okechukwu Ophili's How Stupidity Saved My Life. Please get yourself copies and have fun reading them.
Channels Television presents the Channels Book Club Prize for Literature, where one student in Nigeria stands a chance of winning the top prize of a sponsored trip to the 2013 Frankfurt Book Fair in Frankfurt, Germany, 50,000 Naira worth of books, and exciting consolation prizes for the runners-up. How to participate? Candidates should read and write not more than 1,500 words on Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart The submitted essay must have a title, the candidate's full name, contact number, school, principal's name and contact. Essays should be sent to the Channels Book Club at channelstv.com. For further information, visit www.channelstv.com or call Kunle on 080 333 209 74 or Orelua on 0813 845 7084. Entry closes August the 31st, 2013. The Channels Book Club Prize for Literature, supported by Lufthansa German Airline, the Turner Books, and Goethe Institute.
Hello, we're at Pataba Bookshop at Surulere, and I'm here with some lovely, smart kids who love books. What's the name of your school?
Broadway International School.
Broadway International School. So how are you guys? How are you all doing? I can't hear you.
Fine, thank you.
Do you all love books?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you what your favorite book is.
My name is God's Will.
God's
God's Will. Chiemelie.
What class are you in?
I'm in primary 5.
What's your favorite?
My favorite book is The Three Little Pigs.
How are you? Hello, what's your name?
Follow
What class are
about primary 2.
you? Primary 2. Whoa. What's your favorite book, Tolu?
Jesus Story Book.
Jesus Story Book. That's your favorite book. Wow. Michael, what class are you in?
Primary 5.
5. What's your favorite book?
Wolverine and the X-Men.
Wolverine
And the X-Men.
and the X-Men. Whoa, Wolverine and the X-Men.
Joyce Uhere. I'm a teacher in Broadway International School, and we have the primary section and the secondary section. So, like as you know, we are in summer school right now. So we just decided to come and have fun right here, and we think that's the best place to be.
You just decided to come and show the kids the bookshop and the books in the shop.
They will, have interest in reading, take pleasure in reading, and also invite their parents to come and do some shopping for them. Not just in fashion and other things, but academical aspect of it.
Do the kids do they enjoy reading from your observation as a teacher?
Yes, they do. Though sometimes they might be distracted, but they do.
What kind of books appeals to them, more? Would you say they're literature books, comics, story books? What kind of books do you think appeals to them?
For their level, I think storybooks. Storybooks are better for them. Yeah.
Do they are they attracted more to local storybooks or to foreign storybooks from your observation?
Mostly local, but sometimes foreign also. But the local is more than the foreign.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Hi, my name is Tools, and remember that books are very, very important. And also, make sure you watch the book club on Channels TV.
As always, we'll be very happy to have you on any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. Don't forget, there are only 4 days left for the Channels Book Club Prize for Literature, so hurry up if you are keen. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.